This is Kathy from Gadgets Top 321, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Jacques Herbin Vert Atlantide. This is kind of an evergreen color green with some gold and silver shimmer in it. Now, I don't know how well the color is going to show up in this video, but I'm going to be testing it in a variety of pins and nib sizes, so at least you'll be able to see how it performs in various pins. I'll also do a writing sample with my glass dip pen. I'm going to begin with the dip pen. Now, I don't really like doing these dip pen tests. I dip all these pens when I do these writing samples. I don't like doing these with these shimmer inks. It's always such an ordeal to keep the ink shook up in the vial, and it gets, when you're shaking it up, it gets ink all over the lip of the vial and it gets it all over the pens, and you have to keep them wiped off. But this ink has kind of been worth it. I've enjoyed writing with this ink. It's enjoyable writing with the dip pen with this ink. It feels really smooth, and it puts down just a nice, bold, consistent line. I'm going to see how small I can write with this. Yeah. It's not putting down a messy line. Yeah, that's pretty nice for a dip pen. I guess I should have been zoomed in for that, but let me zoom in so you can see that. Next, I'm going to write with the Pilot 78G with an extra fine nib. I recently did some writing samples with inks that work well with extra fine nibs. And if this did not have the shimmer in it, I would add this to the list. If Jacques Herbin has this ink in a non-shimmer form, it would be a good candidate for this list, because this is nice. It's nice and legible, and it feels nice to write with. Next, I've got my Sailor Le Cool with a medium fine stainless steel nib. Now, this is a little bit more pleasant than that very fine line. Yeah, it's enough wetter that you're getting a bolder line. This is also nice. I would say I'm getting some feedback here, but not unpleasant, but noticeable if feedback is something you're sensitive to. Next, I've got my Quebeco Sport with an extra fine nib. This is nice. A little bit wetter than the Le Cool and just a hair broader, and this is nice, and it has less feedback than the Le Cool did. It's just enough wider that there's less feedback. This is the Twisby Mini with a fine nib. This is also nice. This is a smooth nib to begin with. And a little bit more wetter. Yeah, I like this one as well. Next, I've got a Platinum 3776 with a medium nib. This has some feedback, but like I said with the Sailor LeCool, it's not enough to be unpleasant. It's nice and wet, so I'm gonna say nice, but there's notable feedback. And this is my Stargazer, Pilot Stargazer with a medium nib. This is a very smooth, wet nib. This is I would call this a wet ink. You can see, this is a wet nib to begin with, but you can see how much ink is being laid down on the page. And this is very smooth. We'll see if there's a noticeable difference in the how well you can see the shimmer between these inks of different, or these pens with different wetnesses. And finally, the Jinhao X750 with a 1.5 stub nib. All right, and while that dries, we can take a look at a few other writing samples. This is Tomoe River paper, and this is just an old Hobonichi Weeks from last year. This is the note paper in the back. This was the Weeks Mega, so there's a lot of note paper that I'm enjoying using for these writing samples. This is a little bit cream colored, and I think it looks good with this Christmassy evergreen color. My Rhodia paper is more white, and let me see. Even all the way back to the Sailor LeCool, I don't know if I'll be able to show it here, but I can see the shimmer when I hold it at an angle. But I think most people, if you handed them this page, they would not notice the shimmer until you got down to the stub. When you look at it straight on, you can see, oh, there's a little bit of sparkle to that. Maybe even on the Stargazer you can see it a little bit, but it's not just jumping out at you. I think I would like this ink in a non-shimmer form, or just, you know, get this ink and let the shimmer settle to the bottom and use the non-shimmer ink. It's a pretty ink, and you can see it worked well in every pen, even in the extra fine. The legibility is very good, and it wasn't scratchy. On copy paper, the only one that you see the shimmer on is the stub, and you have to kind of look at it at an angle. People might not even notice any of these being sparkly if you didn't tell them. And let's see, the platinum is where you start to be able to see the shimmer, and it's kind of wet. It wasn't too unpleasant, but the Quebeco Sport and the platinum were just borderline too wet to use on copy paper, and the Pilot Stargazer was unpleasantly wet. The 78G was nice, and you can see it's very legible. The LeCool almost always does really well on copy paper. That LeCool, it's my favorite pen to use on this type of poor quality paper. And let's see, you can see the ink tends to spread a little bit, not bad. And the show through is not terrible. It's an average fountain pen ink. You're not going to want to write on both sides of a paper with 99.9% of the fountain pen inks out there. All right. At least I'm talking about on copy paper. You wouldn't want to write on both sides. In my Leuchtturm, this ink doesn't appear to have any sheen. There's some nice subtle shading, and that shimmer, that gold and silver shimmer showing up really nicely. I like that they put both shimmers in there. It makes it look like, let me see if I can, yeah, it looks like twinkling stars. It's not just all monochromatic shimmer. Yeah, that gold and silver shimmer look nice. And on my Tomoe River paper, yeah, in the Stargazer, since it laid down so much ink, let me get that at an angle. Look at that, how shiny that is. In the stub nib, it's more of a twinkling, sparkly color. In the Stargazer, it's just really shiny. But then in the rest of the nibs, it's not really showing up. The platinum, it laid down a decent amount of ink, but it's not really obvious that it's shimmery. So unless you have a really wet nib, the shimmer is not going to be super obvious. All right. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.